So was WWE as good in 2025 as it was in 2024? I mean, there's probably a more nuanced conversation we could have with that, but I think overall, most fans would say no. Not necessarily a terrible thing, because 2024 and 2023 was so good. You were always going to have to level off a little bit, but I do think there are certain areas that maybe WWE would like to look at throughout 2026, and that is what we're going to talk about today. We have our nice, crazy YouTube headline just to really sell the idea. This is going to be a positive chat about things that personally I, Simon Miller, the Bald Idiot, would like to see it. If you have stopped by, please do hit the subscribe button. And again, patreon.com/Simon316 if you want to join me for my watch-alongs. We've done a bunch of John Cena matches. We did The Rock versus Steve Austin the other day from WrestleMania 19, and I will continue to feed these to you, which is a terrible turn of phrase. But in terms of what we're going to do today, 10 things that WWE should probably change for 2026. And first is the men's tag team division. I will die on this hill. I don't think it was very good in 2025. The SmackDown side was better than the Raw side, and some of those TLC matches we did on SmackDown were absolutely awesome. But in terms of the belts on either side of the pen, I just do not think we got this right at all. Like, the SmackDown side has a bunch of depth, but you never really got any proper stories, and it was kind of a bit like you have the title, then we have the title, and the Wyatts would come, the Wyatts would come, the Wyatts would go. We teased stuff with the MFTs for ages, but never really pulled the trigger on that. They're over on Raw. There are no teams. Like, the New Day are awesome. Judgment Day have been awesome. But then the Creeds, they kind of vanished. Where the hell did the Viking Raiders go? And you have AJ Styles and Dragon Lee, who are tremendous professional wrestlers. But because of everything else that had happened, it just sort of felt like we threw them together. I know I say this all the time. I know I'm boring. I understand. I have to deal with this every single day. I would merge those titles. I would turn them into the Women's Tag Team Championships so they can go to Raw, they can go to SmackDown. And then if they happen to be on a Raw feud, you can have SmackDown people determining who's going to be the number one contenders and vice versa. And then it just opens up the door for a bunch of matches. Why haven't we seen Fraxium versus the New Day? We should see that. Like, one of the best versus a team that has all the potential in the world. And even Fraxium getting called up. We're going to talk about NXT call-ups in a little bit too. That kind of came up. They had some good matches, but we didn't learn about them. We didn't really lean into anything. It was all just kind of there. And listen, the Raw side was worse than the SmackDown side. The Judgment Day, Finn Balor and JD McDonagh didn't defend those belts for like 101 days, and that was part of the story. And Adam Pearce was moaning about this. So you're the general manager, Adam Pearce. You can make them defend them. But then there was nobody. And even back in November or December, whenever it was quite literally the New Day going, we want a title match. This was against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And apparently AJ and Dragon wanted that match. It's just, there's so much more we can do with this. So many stories that we can tell. You've got the New Day in this division, for goodness sake, who you can give a microphone to, and they can do whatever the flub you want. And there'll be a bunch of other people I haven't even mentioned here. DIY, the Motor City Machine Guns, and so on and so on. Even towards the latter part of the year, the Street Profits vanished. Like, where did they go? And maybe they are going to be repackaged and go off in single stars, we do not know. But I do think it needs to be a focus in 2026. We've got the teams, and we have the potential momentum, but for some reason we just never get there. Number 9 is probably more specific to me, but I do think WWE leaned on it a little bit too much in 2025. And that is title matches being made because, to use my term, one wrestler goes up to the general manager or another wrestler and goes, "Geese title shot." That's my stupid lingo for "give me a title shot." And the other wrestler goes, "Yeah, man." That sounds absolutely fantastic. And it happens. It never happens at the world title level, or rarely it does. It does happen a lot in the mid-card. And what really I thought stood out is the week after Maxine Dupree won the IC title. And then we just set these up backstage. Like, Ivy Nile reappeared from nowhere, not seen her on television in months, and said, "I want a title shot." And then Roxanne Perez was like, "I want a title shot," as Raquel was backstage doing weird things with her hands. And it's not just Maxine Dupree. I thought it was wonderful that she did win that championship. But there were a lot of title matches that went down in 2025 just because somebody walked up to somebody else and went, "Hello, I'd absolutely love to challenge for your championships." Again, I think we should do more promos, and we should do more videos, and we should just do more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just more specific things where you can go, well, X led to Y and Y led to X. So let's say, for example, that who is Maxine Dupree friends with? AJ Lee, right? Let's say AJ Lee got totally beaten up by Ivy Nile. I mean, that doesn't really work after that feud too. It's not the greatest idea in the world, but then at least Maxine Dupree could be like, "You beat up my friend and now I want revenge." It probably couldn't be AJ Lee because AJ Lee is too big of a star. It could be Tozawa. I love Tozawa, but That's how WWE treats him. Somebody, like an Ivy Nile, could kick the crap out of Tozawa, and that is what brings Maxine Dupree to the boiling point, and she accepts all this. Now, that's a very, very basic and very lame story in many ways, but it's still better than, could I please challenge for your championship? So let's try and move away from that. And even if it is small things like that, I think people could make it work with their mannerisms and their promos and everything else that is going on. And it happens in all promotions. We're just focusing on WWE today. We will talk about the larger wrestling world in a different video. But we know WWE can do this because they did it great in 2023 and 2024. I just kind of felt like they went away from it in 2025. In at 8, my favourite one as well. Less distractions, less interference, less confusion. You can also push those words together and get the word dick. I am a 12-year-old boy. I do apologise. But there was a time in the summer when it was mostly a random assortment of people taking on the vision where you got a distraction or you got an interference or you got some confusion, right? And then this then bled throughout the entire show on both Raw and SmackDown, but way more heavily on Raw. And when you do it too much and you don't expect finishes, all of a sudden that becomes the norm. That should never be the way. Wrestling is still presented to us as a sport. So you should always expect I'm going to get a winner, I'm going to get a loser. When somebody runs out, you're like, oh no, can't believe it. And they take the joy away from you, which is why a lot of that, once again, especially on Monday nights, should have been reserved for Seth Rollins' group because they were the brand new heel stable in town. And if all of a sudden they are taking away the goodness, then you can get mad at them. But when everybody is doing it, it's like, well, why not even care? You're just joining in. And Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis aren't stopping you. So the treachery they're trying to get up to actually just turns into the normality of WWE. And it was just that summer period. I would argue probably a bit before that, maybe springish, but sort of Mayish time to around about September, it just got out of control. And I think there was about 8 Raw main events back to back, which if you tried to work it out now and write down a piece of paper, you'd be like, I don't know which was which, because they all blurred into one. And I do understand it. I get why we do this. We're trying to protect people. We're trying to tell stories. But you can't just rely on one plot-telling device. If you did that on a TV show or in a movie or in a book, people would get bored as well. I think wrestling in general in 2025 too is just scared of beating people. People can lose. That's a story within itself. Look at someone like John Moxley. Oh my gosh, I mentioned AEW person on a WWE video. He put so many people over. Anytime he wound up in a submission, either against Mascara Dorada, people are like, oh my gosh, he's going to tap out. I think everybody could benefit from more of that, just creating that jeopardy in the match. You do get it with the big stars. Like if tomorrow we did CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes, nobody would know what the flub is going to go down. So, and I guess you could argue because they don't lose a lot, but some people are going to have to lose that aren't in the main event. Otherwise, it's 50-50 booking and that never works. I don't necessarily think WWE has done that, but you've got to find a way where people can get serious victories on their way to a title shot or on their way to do whatever the flub they're going to do at the end of their particular story, and not just get mad because someone ran in with a chair, or my favourite one, somebody's music hit and the wrestler in the ring can't believe another wrestler's outside the ring. So they release a submission hold, or they forget they're supposed to be beating somebody up, and that causes them to lose. And they always look a little bit like a geek. And don't get me wrong, I love wrestling tropes. I don't think WWE should stop doing those. Absolutely not. I just think there's more creativity that could be injected in there. And this is going to be my catchphrase by accident. We saw it in 2024. We saw it in 2023. So we know they can do it. And I hope it comes back in 2026. 7, calling up people from NXT. I've got a list here, and I could be wrong. I did do my research, but it's not always 100% correct. I'm pretty sure in terms of official call-ups, we got Fraxium, we got Stephanie Vaquer, we got Julia, and we got Roxanne Perez. That is 4 people. Fraxium started well, but then they kind of vanished. Roxanne Perez has been done very well. Stephanie Vaquer, probably the best of the lot. And Julia did not have a good run. I'm going to save her for later as well. Actually, the next entry, just eyed it there on my screen. I think more people can come up. I don't mind people staying down in NXT because I think Ethan Page summed this up brilliantly. I don't think you should see it as a developmental brand anymore. I think it should be a third brand. And I think they do need stars. But Trick could have come up this year, and I think that would have been totally fine. Ethan himself could have come up, and I think that would have been fine. Obafemi could have come up. Because there's always people coming through, like a Jordynne Grace kind of hinted at it, but she's still down there. I think she could have jumped up too. And I get it, right? You want to make sure there are people ready to step into those slots. Otherwise, you're not going to tune in. And I'm a massive fan of the way they did with Roxanne Perez. Here's your face run. Now here's your heel run. We just did it with Trick. I don't think there's anything else Trick can do in NXT. But that is what we should be doing in the quote-unquote lesser brand, if we want to call it that, because then you've got your heel chops, you've got your babyface chops. So if when you're on the main roster, there's a certain thing you need to do, at least you've got the experience. That's what NXT should be there for. But I kind of feel like we can throw up a few more people. And someone like Javon Evans, I know this has become a boring conversation online, He doesn't need to go through that process. Some people just have it. Some people are just good to go, right? They really, really are. Such as Leon Slater as well. You could do the same thing with him. So I think we need to take more risks, is what I am saying. And of course, this is more related to Fraxim and I suppose Julia. Make sure the plans are there ready to go. Put them in a feud. It's why, and I understand why Dolph Ziggler didn't like it, and that did get a bit boring too, but at least he was sort of like the gatekeeper to get on the main roster, and you could do something with structure, and I think Fraxim would have benefited from that, and Julia absolutely would have done, and I'm glad that Stephanie Vaquer made her way to the Women's Championship, but it did take a while to get that cooking too. It didn't really feel like there was like a structured plan in place. So I'd call more people up as long as they're ready. I'm not saying to rush it, but I'd also make sure there are story beats ready to go, because then they're going to get over more quickly anyway. Number 6, of course, is the Women's US Championship. It was not good. Let's not even try and pretend. I mean, Zelina Vega's run was just there. Julia's run was the strangest thing ever. We still don't know why Kiana James became her agent. They just lost it back to Chelsea Green. And as of me talking to you, Chelsea Green has defended it a grand total of 0 times. Obviously, that match itself went like 30 seconds. That didn't make any sense. There was a rumor going around that WWE isn't all that fussed with the Women's US Championship, which they're allowed to make that decision, by the way. I'm not going to get too mad about that. It's their title. They can do whatever they want with it. I just think it's a misstep because there are so many good people on that roster. Julia is one. She'll probably get moved up to the main event scene, I would imagine. Chelsea is one. Zelina Vega is one. And you could even move Ivy Nile or somebody over there. Lash Legend just called up. Nia Jax could be in that scene. I'm going to start reading people off here. But there are so many people that you could shift in there. And even if you just took 2 people and allowed them to have awesome promos with each other and tell a story, I think that could get over. And given that Chelsea Green is the current champion, your creativity knows no bounds because she will do whatever you want because she totally understands what pro wrestling is. But I think I would call it the worst booked belt in WWE, not including the Speed title. Although actually maybe the Speed title was booked better. Just there has been no importance put on that belt ever since Chelsea won it at the back end of 2024. Not one sort of incredible reign, not one incredible match. Not because people aren't trying, they're not given the time, and they're not giving the wireframe to do that. That's got to change in 2026, unless WWE doesn't want to. They may see no worth in that belt, but I do, and then I think it's going to help call people up from NXT. Jordan Grace could be called up, have an awesome feud with Chelsea Green and win that thing, and then you could call up Blake Monroe and carry that stuff on. I think people would care, because the NXT audience can be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing it, and you can take the lore they have built down there and sell it to a SmackDown audience or a Raw audience if we do a brand split. I just think it would work, and I think they are props at the end of the day, but they're important props, and people do care, even though there's way too many titles in modern-day pro wrestling, but it'd be way better than this. Number 5 is I think we should get to bigger matches quicker. Now, you can probably argue with this with me. We see so many people get injured all of the time, and that makes me see sad in my tum-tum. I don't want things to go away. So we still have not had Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk, which I believe is the biggest match WWE could do right now. We still haven't had Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. When are we going to get to these things? Like, I find it really, really weird. Only one of those can be the WrestleMania match, and if CM Punk and Roman Reigns are going to do their thing, maybe it actually is going to be Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, which is why Randy Orton disappeared for so long. But there are others as well. Because Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins apparently was going to happen at WrestleMania. Then Seth gets injured. Why couldn't we have done it before this? I understand waiting for WrestleMania, the bright lights, but you could have done it at many WrestleManias. I suppose we did do it at 41 in many ways. Because again, it was Seth versus Roman versus Punk. But it always feels like we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. If WWE truly wants to have bigger events throughout the year, well, I think you should probably take some of these matches and go, okay, it's a quote-unquote B show, but let's take a risk and see what happens. I still think people are going to care. You've also got all the Brock Lesnar matches that people want. I mean, there's Gunther and there's Bron Breakker, and I understand that Brock Lesnar just come back and Gunther took some time off, but if you think Bron Breakker is a major star, do the match. Let Bron Breakker win. Even after that, Gunther can take him on. When somebody is getting to their end of the career, if they do have some star power, you want to make sure you're passing the torch all over the place, so that's something you could do. And even stuff like Becky versus Julia or Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill, right? I understand they're on different brands, but it's not like WWE cares about that when they don't want to. I just think there are more star power matches that are actually being put out there, especially in 2025. I think there were some pay-per-views where maybe we relied on more expected lineups, or we just were so hesitant because, again, it's not a WrestleMania, it's not a SummerSlam, it's not a Royal Rumble. I don't think we need to worry about that anymore. I think we have such a packed roster in WWE at the moment that you can spread these out throughout the year and you can make a WrestlePalooza bigger. Oh, that was pretty decent matches, though. I actually didn't like the event that much at all. Or you can make Elimination Chamber bigger, like you can. We did the John Cena heel turn at the Elimination Chamber, so I don't see why you can't put big matches on there too. So I guess taking more risks is probably the way to put it, especially if we are going to get these long title reigns with the men's champions That's like asterisk one I would put in there. Cody doesn't need to hold the title for a year, and CM Punk doesn't need to hold the title for the year. You can hold it for a couple of months and change it, not just to change it, but because the story is there and because you've worked it all out. I go back to my always example, Steve Austin, when he won the belt at WrestleMania 14, held it for 8 weeks, even less than that, and then he was on the chase again because it worked. And as long as it worked and people care, you've done your job. Number 4 is a good WrestleMania. It's very specific to 2025. We can't ignore the Rhea Ripley Io Sky Bianca Belair match or that triple threat match on night 1. I thought they were the two standouts. And there were some good moments as well. I enjoyed Jey Uso winning. I thought it was a novelty, and I think we need to do more of that stuff. But yes, I think if you sat most wrestling fans down, they did find WrestleMania 41 a slight disappointment, especially compared to WrestleMania 40. So as we are heading into 2026, I think WWE will know this as well. They've got to make sure that WrestleMania 42 is a home run, and I think they will do as well. A lot of the malaise that we had in WWE was because of this strange, well, it was because of the main event with No Rock and Travis Scott. You want to stay away from that. WrestleMania is always going to be the core, the focal point of most things that you do, be it coming out of the show or leading into the next one. So I get it. You're right. Do better. Number 3 is drop storylines. Let's do less of those as well. For example, remember when AJ Styles came out and cut that really cryptic promo? I'm not going to mention who I'm talking about, but they're trying to hold me down. We just stopped talking about that. I understand, I think the Wyatts had some personal situations they had to sort out, so that's an issue. But they still did keep coming and going, and they're the world champions, tag champions. They barely ever defended those belts, so that made that weird. So does Okoa just forgot about the US title for a while. We went, oh yeah, I was interested in that, as did Jacob for 2. That was very weird, as did Damian Priest, as did R-Truth, as did Aleister Black. They were all like, oh man, I'd love to go after that belt. And then all of a sudden they didn't care. And while it was kind of the end of 2024 into 2025, Drew McIntyre did want to be the bloodline hunter. One day we just dropped that out the window. There's also Austin Theory. Don't forget how Grayson Waller and Austin Theory broke up. Just Grayson going, nah, mate, don't want to be with him anymore. Haven't seen him. And we haven't seen him since, and nobody mentions him. That's the other thing WWE does. It's like, we don't want to use him right now, or maybe he's injured, so we just won't talk about him. And that's always weird, right? If you did that on a television show, people would be totally confused. Now, there are always extenuating circumstances to this. I want to make sure I build that in as well. But let's do less of that. I would rather, like Carlito, he got fired and he wasn't allowed to finish something up. Just come up with anything. Even if it ends in a week, you can do it. R-Truth, Ron Killings, there's another great one. It felt like we were going to go on this awesome last run, and instead he was back doing comedy skits and barely appearing on the show. Just give him anything. Write him off in some fashion. Just allow us to be able to sit there with our nerd pens and finish it off. Also kind of ties into number 2. I think we can get to finishing stories quicker. Now, my main one here is going to be Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor, or the Judgment Day. That's been going on all year, right? Because we were even teasing this at WrestleMania. That's how Dominic Mysterio won the IC title, by essentially screwing over Finn Balor. We get to December. Sometimes we care about it, sometimes we don't. I understand the Liv Morgan thing is probably what WWE is holding off on, but let's not pretend there haven't been other things that have gone down on here. For example, Chad Gable gets injured, and we don't do anything with the Creeds and Ivy Nile and Alpha Academy. Everybody just stops. I don't think we would have done that back in the day, and I don't think we would have done that in 2024. You can just, again, it kind of ties into number 3 or whatever the flub it was. You can write people off. You can put a story beat in here. You can just allude to something on commentary that just allows people to go, oh, that's very interesting. Let's see what's going to happen here. I would even argue that Lara Valkyria Bayley stuff got stretched out a little bit without sort of a big turning point, without a big, ooh, I can't believe it. Don't know why I'm making Roman Reigns noises. And I understand that WWE and Triple H as a creative booker, which is actually way better to what it used to be, wants to take his time, don't need to rush, don't need to do anything crazy, don't need to swerve, don't need to rip up the Raw script 10 minutes before we do go live. But I also do think you need these beats, these moments that aren't at, once again, a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam, that just allow people to go, you know what, I am going to tune in next week. And having a bit more friction with Dom and Finn to the point people were begging for it, so we could have paid it off by now. I just think it would have been a teeny-weeny little bit better. And we will finish with returning stars, because obviously Aleister Black came back this year, Rusev came back this year, and somebody else. Who the hell was it? I can't remember. I was talking about Andrade leaving. Andrade leaving probably ties into number 2. One day he was here, one day he wasn't. I understand he seemed to get into some sort of job trouble, but it kind of ties into a bigger picture. But I was pumped for Rusev coming back, and it's been okay. And Rusev's one of my favourite wrestlers. Aleister Black came back, and it was okay. The Zelina Vega thing was good, but we never really got a follow-up to that because he wasn't on TV, and then we had that Cody match, and that was weird. Actually, Rusev has had a decent run, but it kind of felt like they came back, and there was no big promo, and there was no big hoopla, and there was no big, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I think I would like more on that. And again, who knows who's going to return in 2026. And maybe down down to people that called up from NXT, like Carmelo Hayes. I understand it's not a 2025 thing, but he would be another guy where I was like, just give him a little bit more in order to elevate him, or at least try. Not everybody is going to be successful, but that's okay, right? I don't mind if you try somebody, you try them, and they fail over and over again. Not fail, but they don't get to the level you want them to do. All right, that's when you switch paths. But at the moment, maybe it's more like treading water, right? There's a bunch of guys in the mid-card, which I think you need to give a bit more fire to and see if you can elevate them. If it doesn't work, you can reverse it. Penta, for example. I think Penta in 2026, and yet you could probably say him because he debuted, flipping hell, he was awesome. And he had a great 2025, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But it kind of felt like he had the steam to move up a notch. We never did it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So yeah, in the following 12 months, I would just try him, even if it's a TV main event. Let's say Gunther becomes the world champion, right? Gunther versus Penta, you could do as a babyface versus a heel if they stick in those roles. And it could just be a TV program, that's all right. And I think people would buy into it. And then you can test the waters to say, how do the fans buy into Penta as a world champion? I get it. He's not a super huge guy. I really don't care about that anymore. And believe you me, I love super big guys. But it's just not the wrestling business, right? I can appreciate people from different backgrounds with different bodies and different faces and different all this kind of a thing. So that's what I would like to see more of, right? And you don't have to do it on a pay-per-view. That's what I mean. You can do it on television. You can see. So maybe that's kind of a fallout from 2024, where we had all these very set guys in very set positions telling great stories. Whereas 2025, I guess that just fell off because nothing can last forever. But that means you do need a new cast of characters ready to go. Maybe they just weren't there just yet. That was a stupid sentence. I do want to give a shout out to Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker, though. They did get lost in that lull with all the distractions, but I do think they've been flubbing great. So there you go, 10 things I think WWE could focus on in 2026. Should they so wish, you could drop me a comment below and let me know yours as well. I'll definitely go through them to see if you have good ideas. And of course, a lot of you would just say mad stuff, but that's cool too. Otherwise, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click that notification button. That would rule. Talked about Patreon. Please do subscribe to that. And if you're into your fitness, go to grillermind.com/Simon. You go to Simon, get 10% off. I use these. They're good for you. They're going to help you in the gym. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk about them because I do use them myself. Simon316 on social media. Come watch my skits, I suppose, my comedy wrestling videos over on TikTok. I would appreciate that. Otherwise, Cameo for holidays. If this is going live before the holidays, I think so. So find me on there. Pro Wrestling Tees to buy yourself a Christmas present. I mean, my t-shirts or anybody's. Get Dan Hasn't shirt. Why not? Otherwise, my friends, thank you for supporting me throughout the year. I'll see you soon.